Okay, so big Parsha B'ha'alotcha. In Chutzlar, they're still learning Parshat Naso.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, they're not caught up because they haven't done it yet. Okay. So we're going to start at the end of the Parsha this week. Just quickly going to say that this week's Parsha has a whole bunch of topics. Starts off with Aaron and Kohen, Hashem telling Aaron and Kohen how to light the menorah, which seems to be out of place because the whole thing about the menorah was already taught to him in Sefer Shmot. So Rashi says that at the end of last week's Parsha, you know what, I have to make a bracha chroinid before I forget. Some Zionist. So Rashi explains that Aaron HaKohen saw how the princes of each of the tribes was involved in the dedication of the Mishkan, and neither he nor his tribe was involved in that. So he felt bad. He felt like, why aren't we participating? So Hashem comes and tells him, listen, you're lighting the menorah, and what you're doing is even greater. It has more importance than what they're doing. And why is that? Because you're lighting the menorah. So the Ramban explains that this is already an allusion to the miracle of Hanukkah. In other words, Hashem is telling Aaron and Kohen that the menorah is always going to be lit. In the time when there won't be any more sacrifices, they're still going to light the menorah.
Mm-hmm.
And then following that, it talks about the way in which the Shevet Levi, Yiro Levi, how they were purified, and the ceremony that was done to initiate them into being Leviim. Right? Every Jew placed their hands on the heads of the Leviim, and Aaron and Kohen lifted them up physically before God. And then there were some sacrifices that they had to bring, etc., etc. And then they started their service. And then the Torah goes on and says that Leviim are to serve from age 30 to 50. And then the Torah goes on and tells us the story, the Parsha about Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni is the whole big thing about Pesach Sheni. Which Shlomo used to refer to it as the Torah of the second chance. Right? There were these Jews who couldn't participate in the Korban Pesach because they were Tamei. And they came to Moshe Rabbeinu, what?
From carrying Yosef's bones.
Some say from carrying Yosef's bones, some, right? And from carrying Yosef's bones, or maybe they,
Wasn't Yosef involved?
by the Egyptians, yeah. Or, and some say because they were the ones who had to deal with Nadav and Abihu.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, they were Tamei, and they come to Moshe Rabbeinu and they say, why should we lose out from doing the Korban Pesach? It's not as if we did something wrong. We were doing what we were supposed to be doing.
On the contrary, they were doing something
They were
right.
doing the mitzvah, right? And yeah, a bit more so that I can, because I'm looking, okay. So Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, and Hashem says, okay, Pesach Sheni. So basically, it's the Torah of the second chance, like, never give up, and keep it on the table. Never give up, and always, there is a second chance, but what you need to know is that how does the second chance come about? The second chance comes about when you yearn for it, when you really want it. In other words, if you give up, then you don't get a second chance.
Uh-huh. That's a big lesson.
It's a very big lesson. It's like, like there's a teaching from Rav Nachman, that when Hashem said to Adam Arishon, I'm kicking you out of the Garden of Eden, so Adam Arishon just accepted it. Rav Nachman says, if Adam Arishon would have sat down and cried and said, please, I don't want to leave, Hashem.
It reminds me of Noah, who also didn't leave.
Right. And then after that, after the Parsha of Pesach Sheni, we have.
But some of you aren't supposed to accept anything. You're supposed to accept things.
You're supposed to accept, but if you want to, in other words, if you're yearning for more, Hashem is going to give you more.
Not always.
Not always. Then the Torah goes on and tells us, because like once somebody told me, when you're davening for something, that you should end up the davening and say, Rebbeinu Shalom, these are the things that I want, but I only want them if you want to give it to me, if you think it's good for me. Because it's possible that a person should daven for something that is not good. Hey, by the way, I got what's the name of that guy that something Claire?
Alex.
Huh?
Alex.
Sometimes he davens at the shul, the Chabad shul over here. He wears a shtreimel. He's got a blonde beard. Alex what?
Clara, I think is his name.
Whatever. Yeah. You know his story?
Well, they found it out recently.
I just heard it today. I just heard it today.
He's a famous musician.
He's a famous musician. He's got like 17 million hits on.
More, I looked at it. It was 47 million.
47 million.
On this one song of his.
On this one song.
And he was dating this woman, Amy something, who was like this famous singer, and she committed suicide.
Oh, Amy Wine.
Yeah.
He was dating her. Yeah. Wow.
And he became a Bal Tshuva.
So this guy became a Bal Tshuva because Shuli Portner was here today, and he says he was at an event with him, like last night, and he played there, and he told the story that he was what was her name? Winehouse, I think.
Right.
I saw a documentary about her. Tragic. She was a great singer. So he was signed with a big record label in England, I guess, and then he became a Bal Tshuva, and they so these record companies, they invest in the stars, right? And so they had this big thing, they wanted him to open up for some big star, Adele or whatever, who was going on tour. But he would have to work on Shabbos. And he said no. So they canceled him and they sued him for $300,000, which he had to pay back. And he also owed all these musicians that he had contracted with. And he was thinking, my gosh, I accepted to be a Shomer Shabbos, and look at what's happened, right? The very next day, he got a call from Germany to come and do something, and it was all the money he needed to pay the musicians. And then it happened, I don't know all the details, but basically Microsoft took his song
for some advertisement.
Used his song for some kind of app that they were promoting, and from that he's become very successful. Or did you say over 17 million hits?
47
million hits, unbelievable, right? So sometimes Hashem takes one thing away only because he wants to give you something better.
Bezat Hashem.
Bezat Hashem.
But that's how every curse is a blessing.
Right.
Has the potential to be a blessing.
So,
Bezat Hashem.
Yeah. Hashem.
This last Shabbos, I was talking with Oded. Do you know Oded? He also comes to the Chabad Shul, wears a shtreimel. He speaks English. He's Israeli. I don't know how to describe him. Anyhow, he has a program, it turns out, on Gali Tzal. Tochnita Kankalit. Did you know this?
Oh, he's a lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
He's an option of a chassid.
Is that what he is? So I'm in the mikveh the other week. I said, hey, I just heard you have a program on the radio. I'll listen to it. What's it called? So then he said it's called the, whatever, economics. This is an economic show. So Alex was in the mikveh. He said, what, we're going to talk about economics on Shabbos? So we can also talk about famous musicians. Till the week before, I didn't even know. I've known this guy for a year now. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. It's a good thing. Good thing to be a humble, famous person.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next part of the parsha is it talks about how we traveled. Al pi Hashem Yisud, al pi Hashem Yachanu. It was only by the command of God that we traveled and we camped. And it was not an easy thing because there were places that Hashem sort of parked the pillar of cloud and said, okay, we're camping over here. And sometimes it was just for one night. You had to unpack and pack the next morning. And sometimes we came to a place that wasn't so, and we had to be there for a long time. So for 40 years, we were traveling al pi Hashem, Yisuv al pi Hashem Yachanu, we were traveling by the command of God. And the reason the Torah is telling us all that is sort of telling us that, that part of the big work that we were doing, and it wasn't it for 40 years because we weren't, the story with the spies didn't happen yet. But in any case, the point is that we were being sort of getting ready, we were being trained in really trusting Hashem. Understand? When you don't know when you're going to have to move and how long you're going to stay somewhere and you're going to do this and that and so on, and you're putting your trust in Hashem's command, it's quite a thing.
It was so that the generation would die out, right?
No, that's later. That's after the miracle. This is still before. This is still before. And then then comes the parsha about Hashem says to Moshe to make 2 trumpets, and the trumpets were used for letting the people know when to move, and for letting the people know when to daven because there's an enemy coming and so on. And also the trumpets were used to announce the holidays. So it's sort of like a kind of a mitzvah similar to shofar, but it's not the same. It's not really the same. And then the Torah tells us that it was the 2nd month of the 2nd year, on the 20th of the month, right? So it was the 20th of Iyar. The Anan rose, and we started traveling. And it tells us the order, how we traveled, etc., which tribe went in front, and so on and so on. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to his father-in-law, to Yisro, we're now traveling to Eretz Yisrael, and he invites him to come along. There's a debate whether Yisro came along, because Yisro says he's going back home. And there's a debate whether he went back home permanently or he went back home to get the rest of his family. Did he convert? Did he not convert? So the Torah doesn't make it really, really clear.
And Rashi?
Does
Rashi make it clear?
No, the Torah doesn't make it clear. In other words, there's a debate among the commentators. Did he convert? Did he not convert?
I thought he's always used as an example.
He's by those who say that he converted. And then we come to the 5th book of the Torah. The 4th book of the Torah ends.
I hate the taking this in front of me. Sorry. Yes.
The 4th book of the Torah ends at chapter 11, just before chapter 11. And we have these 2 verses of Vayehi ben Sorah Ha'aron Vayomer Moshe. Kuma Hashem v'yafutzu oivecha v'yanusa misanecha mipanecha. And then the next verse of V'nucho Yomar Shuva Hashem Alivavot Al Pei Yisrael. So these are Vayehi ben Sorah and V'nucho Yomar are 2 famous verses because we say them every Shabbos and we take the Torah out and we put the Torah back. So when we would start traveling, it would be Vayehi ben Sorah Aaron Moshe Rabbeinu would say this prayer: Arise, Hashem, and let all your enemies scatter and flee from you. And when it was time to camp somewhere, he would say, Shuva Hashem L'Levavot Al Pei Yisrael, please Hashem return to the thousands and tens of thousands of the Jewish people. Now, if you look carefully, you see that these 2 verses have an upside down nun. One in front of the 2 verses and one at the end of the 2 verses. Looks like parentheses. And some of the commentators say, why is that? So one explanation is to separate between the first part of Sefer Bamidbar and what follows, because what follows from here on is story after story of the Jewish people rebelling. The first story about rebelling is, it's about complaining about the manna, they wanted meat. Mm-hmm. Then comes another story of Miriam speaks Lashon Hara against Moshe Rabbeinu, and then comes the parsha of the Meraglim, of the spies. So the rest of Bamidbar is like, big mistakes that we made. So the Ishbitzer refers to Sefer Bamidbar as the Torah of mistakes. What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking about everything you're saying. Wow, I had a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm listening. Torah of mistakes.
The Torah of mistakes. The Gemara says, "Ein adam omed b'dvar halacha ela im ken nichshal ba." A person doesn't really get the depth of the halacha until he trips over it.
Yeah, there was this famous actor, Kirk Douglas's father. He was learning with Rabbi David Aaron. No, I didn't make it to this lesson this year. He said in the past that he told them the one thing that he couldn't teach his kids was the gift of poverty. Couldn't give his kids was the gift of poverty. Somebody who doesn't make mistakes can't understand the gift of making a mistake.
Yeah. And sometimes, until you make a mistake, in other words, like I was saying the other day, this man gives his two boys, he gives them each a car. One he gives a car that works beautifully and smoothly, and the other one is a shtickle jalopy. Who got the greater gift?
First one, you would think.
You would say the first one, the one who has the car that operates good.
Jalopy?
But if the one who got the jalopy learns how to fix it and learns how to improve it, he got the better gift.
Only if.
Only if. In other words,
what if he doesn't know that he's
when Hashem, yeah, it can go wrong. When Hashem challenges us, we have to know that it's actually all for the good. We should be blessed to really know that, and it's all for the good, and that because Hashem does only good, but there's revealed good and there's concealed good. And when things are coming down in a harsh way, we have to know that that's concealed good, that it's actually higher than revealed good.
I think I told you, I learned from Reb Zalman watching his video on Sefer Ruth that the Baal Shem Tov said you don't say things about, you say they're bitter.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that,
Yeah.
Fine. But now it's bitter. Say it as bitter as you want. But it can turn to sweet.
Right.
When it's bad, from bad to good is harder. There's a bigger gap from bitter to sweet.
So that's one reason that these two verses are separated and considered to be like a book unto their own. That even so, Aaron, these two verses are like sort of like bracketed between the first part of Bamidbar and the second part of Bamidbar. Okay. Then the Torah tells us the story about how he started complaining.
Seeing up until this point, we weren't complaining.
There was one complaint earlier in Shmot, where we had come and the waters were bitter and so on.
Right, you hit the rock.
And we also complained that we wanted food and we got the slav. But
so is it the other way around?
No, we complained that we wanted food, and that's when we got the man. And now we're complaining.
It's really complaining? Like,
yeah. Now we're complaining with no really good reason.
Uh-huh.
So the first complaint is, and from the way the Torah puts it, in Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Daled, that it says, "V'hasafsuf asher b'kirbo." These were the people, the Erev Rav, that joined up with the Jews when we left Egypt. The Asafsuf, from the word Asaf.
Some politician that used that a few years ago, and then people had these stickers, Ani Asafsuf.
Right.
I remember Ud Barak, I don't remember what it was. That's how I learned the word from him.
So they complained and they said, who's going to give us some meat? We remember the fishes that we ate in Egypt for free, and the gourds and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. All of a sudden, we remember all the exotic foods that we had in Egypt, so to speak.
These were the complaints from Yasef, super from everyone.
They started it, yeah.
Got it.
And now all that we get is the man in the morning, in the evening, and we're tired of it, etc., etc. The Torah goes on and tells us that you know what they were complaining about. They were complaining about this great heavenly food. And interestingly, as Moshe Rabbeinu turns to God, and he says, now, by the way, the rabbis interpret, pasuk yud, the when it says Bochel mishpachotav, everybody was crying together with their family. So the rabbis interpret that that we were crying over the fact that we had all these laws about sexual morality, things that people were able to practice in terms of sexual relations in Egypt were now forbidden now that we got the Torah. So this whole complaint about food was also really a complaint about the stringent laws of sexuality.
So that's from Rashi?
Rashi is quoting from the Gemara, yeah.
From the Gemara.
Yeah. Okay. So then Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Hashem and he says, why have you done something so bad to your servant? Why haven't I found favor in your eyes that you put the load of this nation all upon me? Was I pregnant with them? Did I give birth to them that you should tell me that I have to carry them in my bosom? Mm-hmm. Like a mother has to carry her infant, right? Where am I supposed to take meat from to give them? If they're crying to me, give us meat. I can't carry the load all by myself. It's too heavy for me. And if that's what you're going to do to me, if you're going to leave me be all by myself in this role of leadership, do me a favor and kill me so that I don't see the terrible life that is going to be ahead of me. So the Mefarshim,
quite a line.
Huh?
It's quite a line.
It's quite a line, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was feeling like exasperated, right? And his mom is like exasperated, right? So Rashi says that when he said I shouldn't see the bad that's going to happen to me, but he's really talking. I don't want to see the suffering that the people are going to have. He doesn't want that the people are going to have.
Yeah.
And but he sort of doesn't want to put it that way, so he puts it on himself. But
it's a nice way of saying
it. So some of the Mefarshim say, like, what is this? What kind of response is this from Moshe Rabbeinu? Saying to God, like, what did you do to me? Why did you give me this job, etc., and so on. So, the people are complaining about meat, and he's complaining about God. What am I supposed to do? You put this tremendous load and responsibility on me.
Doesn't everyone with responsibility feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't everyone with responsibility feel that way? You're a normal person.
Yeah, I guess the people with a big load of responsibility feel that
person
way, right?
Who's running a big company, the general in the army.
Yeah. But they aspire to these jobs.
Yeah, but then once they get there, they say, "Oh, what do they do?"
Okay, but I'm saying, but here Moshe Rabbeinu, he got the job. He didn't even put in an application. Anyway.
So you're saying he has an excuse or a
reason?
But
still, what's the real shot? So the answer. So one of the Mefarshim says, I remember that he basically is saying to Hashem, he knows that this is a bad situation. Hashem is giving us this special heavenly food, and we're complaining against what God is giving us, right? So he knows that this is like potentially going to be very bad. So what he does is he's saying to Hashem, you know why the people are complaining? Because I'm not such a great leader. And I'm all alone leading these people. And you know, like, you gave me this job that I'm obviously not good enough to do it properly, because if I was good enough, I would, what do you call it? Then the people wouldn't be rebelling now. So it's obviously me that's not good enough. So
why would you look at it that way? You could say, obviously Hashem is pushing my limits.
no, but you know, this is like very unusual. He just does this here in this situation, and he's sort of trying to stop Hashem from being angry at the people.
I mean, he's trying to take it on himself.
He's taking it on himself. He's saying, Hashem, you gave me this job all by myself.
I understand.
You understand? So I'm obviously not managing to communicate properly and to do it properly.
They're not complaining because they're unhappy. They're complaining because I wasn't a good enough leader. That's what he's saying.
He's saying the reason that they're complaining because they want meat, right? If I would have been a better leader, they would be really happy with what they have.
Got it.
Right?
It's a nice way of saying it.
So, let me just see if he has everything that he needs over there. Yeah, what you need? So, okay, so much for that, okay? And it's at this point that Hashem assigns to him the 70 elders to participate in the leadership. And then the people get this, Hashem sends the people the quail, the slav, and there's loads of them coming in, and you're just picking them out of the air. They're flying low, and there's huge amounts, and people are picking them out of the air, and they're drying them. And it says the people who picked the least amount had like 10 piles, you know? And they were warned, and they started gorging themselves on the meat. The Torah says the meat was still between their teeth.
They need to shech the bread. I mean,
whatever they needed to do, they did. And in other words, they were overdoing it, and then this God hit them. In other words, and a lot of people died. And they named that place Kivrot HaTahava, the place of the burial ground of those who couldn't overcome their lust, their desires. And then the Torah ends off the Parsha, Perek Yud Bet, that's what we're going to look at. But Daber Miriam v'Aaron b'Moshe, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moshe. And Aladot HaIsha HaKushit, concerning the black woman, Asher Lakach, that he had married, Isha Kushit Lakach. And again, he had married a black woman, and again, there's a lot of controversy as to exactly what's going on here. So Rashi explains that they're referring to Miriam, I'm sorry, to Tzipporah, right? And when the Torah calls her Isha Kushit, Kush is Ethiopia, you know? And then when the Torah calls her Isha Kushit, yeah. When the Torah calls her Isha Kushit, what they're saying is that she was actually very beautiful. So what were they complaining about? That he married a beautiful woman? So Rashi explains that what happened is as follows, and he's bringing a medrash, that when the 70 elders were selected to work with Moshe Rabbeinu, it says that God took from the spirit of Moshe Rabbeinu and emanated that great spirit onto them as well. There was some kind of a big spiritual transmission that was taking place, and then came. And then there were two people, Eldad and Medad, that were prophesying. Originally six people were chosen from each of the tribes that made 72, and then from the 72, Eldad and Medad were left out. But they were still prophesying at that moment. And
what does that mean?
They were receiving prophecy. Yeah, they had ascended. Way. They had ascended to the level of prophecy. And when Tzipporah heard that they had become prophets, so she said, "Oh no," she felt bad for their wives. Why?
Because she was married to Moshe Rabbeinu.
She was Moshe Rabbeinu's sister.
Okay. Miriam,
but she had heard from Tzipporah that ever since Hashem was speaking with Moshe Rabbeinu was no longer being with her. Now Hashem had told Moshe about Tapo Amodi Madi, you stay here with me. So Moshe Rabbeinu had basically separated from Tzipporah. He was married to her, but he wasn't being with her like a regular husband. So Miriam, in her motivation to help Tzipporah, she complained and she said, "Wait a minute, Hashem didn't speak only to Moshe Rabbeinu. We also heard God's voice, and we were never told that we have to become celibate." And they didn't know that Hashem actually had told Moshe to maintain himself ready to be heard, to speak to Hashem at all times. And so, and the Torah says, this is a famous verse, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't reply because he was the most humble person. The Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person on the face of the earth. All of a sudden, Hashem comes and talks to Moshe and to Aaron and to Miriam, calls them all out to the tent of meeting, and they all go there. Hashem comes down with the pillar of cloud at the entrance of the tent, and he calls to Moshe and to Aaron and to Miriam, and they have to go outside. And Hashem speaks to Aaron and to Miriam, and he says to them, listen, if there's a prophet and Hashem speaks to the prophet through visions, through dreams. But that's not the way it is with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is trusted in my entire household. When I speak to him mouth to mouth, he doesn't have to see any images. He doesn't see any riddles. He sees the image of God directly, whatever that means, because man can't really see God. Hashem said that to Moshe himself, that you can't see me. The matter? So, but what he sees is the backside of God, so to speak, like it says in Shemot. So why did you not fear to talk against my servant Moshe? And then Hashem leaves them. He gets angry at them and he leaves them. And then the cloud lifts up again, and behold, Miriam is full of leprosy, white like snow. And Aaron turns to Miriam and he sees, oh my gosh, she's gotten leprosy, right? And you remember Moshe Rabbeinu, when he spoke against the Jews in Mitzrayim, Hashem told him, put your hand in your bosom, and he takes out his hand and it was leprous, right? Leprosy was always associated with Lashon Hara. So Aaron says to Moshe Rabbeinu, please don't hold this sin against us. Yes, we've sinned, but please don't let our sister be like a dead body, like a dead person with leprosy. And Moshe Rabbeinu calls out to God, and this is a famous prayer for healing. Eil na rifa na la. Please, God, heal her now. Moshe Rabbeinu, and Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, and what would have been if her father would have spat in front of her? She would hide herself for 7 days from shame. So let her be sent out of the camp for 7 days in seclusion, and then afterwards she can come back. And so she went out of the camp and for 7 days to be in seclusion, and then came back. She was healed and she came back. And then they traveled, and then the next parsha is about the spies. So Reb Shlomo once explained, that according to halacha, the halachic definition of Lashon Hara, by definition, is the truth that you're telling. When you're talking against somebody, right?
No,
You mother? She's on a group already? Almost. Okay, so I'll just finish with this.
Yeah.
When you're speaking Lashon Hara, you're telling the truth. So what's wrong if I'm telling you the truth? The guy wasn't behaving right, so why shouldn't I tell you? So Shlomo said, according to the tree of knowledge, there's nothing wrong with Lashon Hara. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is what the guy did, right? But according to the tree of life, it's totally wrong. Because, yes, maybe the person did that, but maybe they've done tshuva. Maybe they're already miles ahead of where
you say that they did tshuva.
By the time you're telling the story, they did tshuva already, and if you're telling Lashon Hara, you're basically locking the person into that place. And you're saying he did this, and he's going to be stuck there forever. So don't speak Lashon Hara. Don't listen to Lashon Hara. We should all be blessed. To see good and to speak good.
Shukar, thanks.
Say hi to your mom.
Yeah.
And
she's going to be here for 2 weeks. It's the longest trip ever.